on digital radio, on the app, on your smartphone, on X, YouTube, and Facebook. The Sportscast. Basketball in March.
The Donut Bag presented by The Sportscast.
The Donut Bag, hosted by Joey Toscano. And here's your host, Joey Toscano.
We should keep the music going. Just have it like in the background, so we could just like dance while you're talking. I could be dancing and stuff.
Right? Yes.
Oh my goodness. All right, here we go. People coming in. Hello, people. I love that.
There we go.
Welcome to the Donut Bag Podcast, part of the Sportscast Network. Welcome to everybody joining live. If you want to join in on the conversation, you can jump on YouTube. And I am you just look for Joey Bag of Donuts being 7F. And if you could you can add comments, and we usually include you in the show. So thank you for that. Before we get started, I just do want to do a quick thing about my little Pittsburgh media March Madness thing.
Yep. I didn't make it this year.
You did not make it this year. You were the first four out. I started this in April of 2020 when the pandemic was starting and we were all losing our minds. We were doing goofy things to occupy our time. So since it's March Madness, it's like, let me do a March Madness of all the media people in Pittsburgh. And it just kept going. And this year I thought, you know what? It's over. It's dumb. It's played out. Who cares? Nobody cares about this thing. So I decided not to do it. And people are like, what is wrong with you? What do you mean you're not doing it? So it's like, okay, fine. I'll do it. So I started this week and I cannot believe the reaction. It's on radio shows. It's blowing up. So thank you to everybody for participating in it. It is such a goofy, stupid thing, but it is it's a lot of fun. If you go to my pinned tweet, it'll be that's one way to vote for the sports thing. There's also a TV and radio bracket. Mm-hmm. To everybody that got omitted, it's because I'm stupid and forgetful, and I kind of threw the whole damn thing in the last minute, so that also contributed to that. So there were no West Virginia snubs here, and North Carolina didn't make it because the athletic director got a kickback or something like that. There's no payola going on here. So
well,
everybody,
yeah, I'll tell you what, if I had to rank my favorite broadcast you've ever done, Sally Wiggins is probably top 2 at least.
It's my favorite.
The year she won, I've actually probably listened to that more than once. That was just a lot of fun, and her willingness to be on the show with you. And I've actually, as one Pittsburgh media person, I have not met. But everything that everyone says about her seemed to come out in that interview with you. So you did a great job with it. I'm not just saying it because you're, my co-host partner here or whatever, and you're sitting there. But no, you did a great job interviewing her. I think you asked a lot of questions a lot of people probably didn't get to ask Sally. And she was very much an open book to you in that interview. And so I thought that was just fantastic. I like Sally Wiggins. Obviously, I think highly of you. And I thought that was probably the best episode, my favorite episode of the Donut Bag you ever did. That was good.
That was my favorite that I've ever done. And it was a dream come true because she's a legend. And
yeah,
it was so awesome talking to her. And really, I don't even know if I had anything prepared. I was just, it was just, she's like a ball of energy. We just, you say hi and it's like, boom, when we're off to the races. And I just was trying to keep up. So it's like,
yeah.
So, it was, that was so much fun. Yeah. She won it. Mike Lang won the sports one the first couple years because if anybody was dumb enough to vote against Mike Lang, you're an idiot. And then he retired. And then it's been between Bob Pompiani and Mark Madden winning the sports one, and Heather Abraham is like dominating the TV one. So we'll see what happens this year. But
Well, Heather is a person much like Sally. I think a lot of us can sit at home and relate with Heather, and I feel like I feel like you could go out with her and her husband for dinner and have a fun time, and there wouldn't be like this hoi polloi attitude about it. So yeah.
She appeals to everybody, and that's why everybody loves her. She's a mom. She just appeals to everyone. And I mean, I still can't believe this. They do this thing where they do in December. They're like, hey, we're having a toy drive. Come drop off some toys. And you can meet the people, the folks, the KDKA folks and stuff. I'm like, okay. And so I did that, and like it was just a real crazy atmosphere. So I just went to didn't think I was going to see anybody. So I just dropped off the things and left. And then and as I'm leaving, Heather's like, Joey, I'm like, what? And she's like running after me, like, where'd you go? Come over here. And we talked for a while. She's just the nicest person ever.
Yeah,
that's what feels her. She's just so friendly, and she's just everybody's friend. That's basically, she's just awesome. Yeah.
But no, everything. I mean, obviously, you did a real good job with it, and people are excited about it. I've heard people talking about it too. I definitely never put Andrew Filipponi as a 2 seed, but that's another argument for another time.
Okay, for everybody questioning the seeds, it's all on Twitter. It's I basically just put them in a spreadsheet, take everybody's number of Twitter followers and put them in. So. Yeah, that's why. So why so Twitter? And then like somebody like Bill Hillgrove that doesn't have a Twitter, I just guess how many.
I know it's. I actually ran into his son. I know his son. We cross paths quite a bit with our jobs, and we were at a dinner last year at the country club over by Aspinwall, and we're eating dinner, and we started talking about your media thing. It's
really?
Oh yeah, it's just it's a lot of fun, and to Joe's credit, go ahead if you don't follow on Joe on Twitter, you should. The media madness brackets every year, and everyone talks about it. It's a lot of fun, so go vote. It's extremely a lot of fun for sure.
It's all of us. So thank you to everybody for participating. Now for the depressing news. That was the fun part of the show.
Is that the Steelers? Yeah.
And yeah, now we have to talk about the Steelers. So the big news this past week is Aaron Rodgers came to visit Pittsburgh, and he spent 6 hours on Friday meeting them. No word as to whether he got nachos or did they? I think they have Permanis in Heinz Field or something. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know what he ate. There's really not great places to eat around the stadium. There's like McFadden's and is Tequila Cowboy still there? I think so.
I think it's something else now, but yeah, it's there.
No, it's Jerome Bettis's is now something else. I think it's Jason Aldean's restaurant or something like that. It's
Jason Aldean's. I loved it when it was Bettis's place. I loved it. You had the 36-ounce steak. But I mean, it's just like, it's, I don't know who advises these guys, but Rod Woodson's grill, which I also love, didn't work out. Bettis's place didn't work out. I don't know if you and
Heinz Ward had a restaurant. It didn't work out.
We got to open the bag at the donut bag diner or something. But no,
in a previous life, I did have a restaurant, but
there you go.
I always love Rod Woodson's restaurant. It was in Station Square because at the time, this was like mid-90s, he was in a contract dispute with the Steelers, and people said, there's no way Rod Woodson can leave. He has a restaurant in Pittsburgh. Like as if Rod Woodson is like cooking the steaks or something like that. Rod was like, "Oh my God, was this medium rare or rare? I forget." Oh no, it's like you think he's working there, people?
Heinz Ward,
tax write-off, people.
When he had Table 86 in Weck Cranberry, he would go from time to time.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I remember seeing Rod Woodson there, but people don't realize like at the time that was cutting edge because he'd have the helmets. He had, like, I remember the one booth was like a Lawrence Taylor booth and had a signed Lawrence Taylor Giants helmet. I mean, it was like really before, like, For me, he's kind of went over the sports thing, and Quake Steak and Lube was just kind of getting off its feet. I mean, it's homegrown Sharon, PA, but it wasn't getting into the chain part just yet. And now, like you can go to a lot of these sports bars and they have all the memorabilia, but Woodson's was very cutting edge at the time with all that cool stuff on the walls and the helmets and everything and jerseys. It was great. I'm sorry we got off the rails there. Let me tell you this. I can't imagine many human beings I would want to spend less than 6 hours in a room with than Aaron Rodgers, other than Mike Tomlin. I mean, if you're flying the wall, give me a can of Raid. I mean, because I'll raid myself, because I could not imagine how, I don't know. Somebody was really quick, maybe an Alan Saunders. Someone was really quick to point out, because he left without a contract. But so did Russell Wilson. It was kind of the same thing. He was there for like 5 hours. The other thing was, Penn State. The Steelers skipped Michigan's pro day, which I don't know if that speaks more about their love for affinity for Rodgers, or the Michigan pro day wasn't worth going to. It's usually one of the top ones that most scouts do go to. But he left without a contract, and I wasn't surprised about that, Joe. I'll be surprised when it does happen, and if it does. But so that's where we're at. No contract, and of course, breaking news: Russell Wilson just signed with the Giants.
What?
You didn't see that? He just signed with the Giants about a half an hour ago.
Are you kidding?
$10 million up to he can get up to 21.5 if he hits certain incentives. But Russell Wilson is a Giants. So the Giants are now went out Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson, and
okay.
Wow. And they're more than likely going to draft a quarterback in the first round. So I don't know. Here we are with Mason Rudolph.
Okay, so that basically kills Rodgers' leverage, because now he can't say. Now he can't say, well, maybe I'll go to Minnesota, maybe I'll go to New York. It's like, no, you have no. We're at the musical chairs. Everybody has a chair except for you, Aaron Rodgers. So your choices are the Steelers or the beach.
Yeah, with your towel, listening to Renegade in your AirPods. The thing is, and it seems pretty much like the Vikings were like in it for about up until we did the last week's episode. It's like the next day they came out and said, we're pretty much going to go with J.J. McCarthy. We feel pretty good about that. So it almost seems like the Steelers are maybe the really only suitor left. But you never know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me tomorrow if he signed with the Raiders or something stupid out of the blue. But I don't know. And it really is to this point, if you're a Steeler fan, and we're now at this juncture, Russell Wilson is now gone. Justin Fields is gone. We have Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, and that's about it. And you have to say to yourself, well, what are we better off as? Are we better off going 5 or 6 wins without Aaron Rodgers and paying him? Or are we better off paying Aaron Rodgers, probably finishing 9-8 again and picking 17th to 20th again? Or next year we could have a top 5, top 10 pick probably pretty easily. And it's not in anyone's nature to say we want to suck and lose. But I don't know.
It's a popular sentiment that people actually do want to suck and lose, because it would break us from this. Who is it? Who's the dude to push the boulder? Sisyphus or something like that? You're constantly pushing the boulder up the hill, and constantly, right. It's the same thing over and over again. It would break that. We would get run over by the boulder for one year. But I wonder if that's actually what they secretly want. The draft is in Pittsburgh
next year.
And it seems like it's like, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, even if Aaron Rodgers does sign, but like you said, whether he does or doesn't, it's just a temporary thing. And in theory, we're going to get our knight in shining armor, our wonderful quarterback, whoever this is, in 2026. But if we go 5-12, we're going to get a top 10 pick, and we're going to be guaranteed one of these wonderful quarterbacks. Roethlisberger 2.0 or something like that. So maybe they secretly want that.
I don't know. I don't know if they want that, but I would tell you, I think you're more right if you're talking about the fans, because I still kind of shake my head and you see all these polls on Twitter and people are all in on Mason Rudolph. And I'm sitting here thinking, and I'm just looking at this from a competitive aspect. I don't see Mason Rudolph leading us to the promised land. I'm not sure. I know the last 3 games of his last year here, he did well, but those are probably the most 3 notable games in his career was his last. And I just don't see this guy being the answer for a 17-game season. And I think that's what everybody else sees, but for like the way you're saying, hey, great, Mason Rudolph's good. Full confidence in Mason Rudolph because we'll stink. Can you see Mason Rudolph being able to beat the Bengals? I don't. I could see Aaron Rodgers beating the Bengals. We saw Russell Wilson beat the Bengals. I think Justin Fields could have beat the Bengals. I don't see Mason Rudolph squaring off against Joe Burrow and coming out on top on that one. Now, all of a sudden, usually what were mostly the 2 gimme games, or at least almost guaranteed a 50% split. Now I got to shift that right now if we're starting the predictions, which we'll do in a couple months. I think it's 0-2 against the Bengals this year if it's Mason Rudolph.
We saw that. Now this 3-game stretch that he had to end the 2023 season where he was awesome, and that was great. And he took him to the playoffs, and Rudolph with your red nose so bright once you got our slate on. And he dragged him into the playoffs against Josh Allen, where he got his butt kicked. So to your point, how's he going to do it against an elite quarterback? He's going to get his butt kicked.
Yeah, without question. He's just not. He doesn't match up against those guys. No, it might be an interesting game against the Browns. Whoever the hell the quarterback's going to be for the Browns. We don't even know.
Kenny Pickett.
That could be Kenny Pickett. It's very. I'll say this, Steelers. You've given us a lot to either cry about or think about or sit here and say we can't believe we're here about. But that's where we're at. And Joe's banner's right. Saga continues. It's a saga. Saga, the very definition is it's a long-lasting thing. And here we are. And now Russell Wilson's gone, and we are sitting here with Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. I didn't think, unless I read it wrong, and I've been pretty good with the draft the last couple of years. I didn't think the Steelers were really quarterback heavy in this draft. At least I didn't think a quarterback was like a main target. I think Dart, who I like, is probably his stock's gone so far up. I don't think he'll be there. You posted something earlier on I think you did a Quentin Ewers from Texas. Quinn Evers, thank you. Who's been kind of forgotten about. And, he's flying under the radar. He might be a 2nd or 3rd round pick, which I could be okay with. I mean, he's got the build, but he hasn't looked good in certain situations. A lot of people in Texas are glad he's gone because they didn't think he could win the big game and wanted Arch Manning to be playing.
I was going to say they're waiting for Manning, yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, it makes it all the more perplexing. If we run into the draft in a couple weeks from now and Mason Rudolph is our starting quarterback, holy crap. I don't know. I just don't know.
If that's the case, if it is Mason, because I mean, what did Chuck Noll say? If you're thinking about retiring, you might as well retire. So Aaron Rodgers, if he's thinking about retiring, I mean, just think about it. The guy has nothing to play for. He's won his Super Bowl. He's a legend. 4-time MVP. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe top 10 quarterback of all time. He has nothing really to play for besides he just left a really bad taste in his mouth with his time in New York. So he could easily decide, screw this. I'm going to go play on the beach. I'm going to go play with my towel. And that's it. And then the Steelers are kind of stuck. So I don't know. I mean, I think most likely he is going to show up. And I think most likely he's going to show up on when Pat McAfee does his arena show in Pittsburgh or something like that on April 9th. So what do we have? Oh God, another 2 weeks of this crap.
I can't imagine. I got to say the 2 old men, Dan and Art Sr., are rolling in their graves. If the Steelers are not only going to let him announce that on the Pat McAfee show, but every Tuesday he's on the Pat McAfee show. And I mean, what a freaking circus. And, you start talking about Aaron Rodgers in the pantheon of great quarterbacks. And I remember with Joe Montana, and I was trying to look this up before we started the show. He went out pretty high with the Chiefs. And that Chiefs team, him, Marcus Allen, I mean, they had a pretty good thing going there.
Beat the Steelers in the playoffs.
That's right. They just couldn't, get past Jim Kelly and the Bills. And I forget who it was offered him a pretty big deal to come play. And he finally said, you know what? Went out pretty good with the Chiefs, had a couple good years with the Chiefs, obviously had a phenomenal career with the 49ers. Time to hang it up, and, he went down the thing. I would think any normal quarterback would do that, but I think Aaron Rodgers, you would think things did not end well. The Jets experiment was horrible. And you'd think if he had any common sense or normalcy about him, he would want to come here, or even if he went to the Vikings and try to finish out strong. But it's Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know what could happen. The Pat McAfee show tomorrow, he could come on as the full-time host with AJ Hawk. And, it's just, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's such a wild card in the way he talks, the decisions he makes, the things that he says, and you're bringing him here possibly to Pittsburgh, and that's kind of scary.
It is just so it would just be so volatile. I think is the word. Just be so much volatility to everything. And I saw a meme that said Aaron Rodgers gets every coach fired. Mike Tomlin can't be fired. It's the irresistible force meaning the immovable object.
Gorilla Monsoon, that's right. That's absolutely
it's Hogan Andre all over again.
Yes. Yep. And Gorilla would say that often, but it always was such a great phrase that came out of his mouth. And and I think the other wild card about that is the whole George Pickens thing. I really feel like there could be a chance that they're keeping George Pickens there as bait for him. Like, hey, you come here, you're gonna have Pickens, you're gonna have DK Metcalf. We got you a decent. We went from a crap receiving core to a pretty decent one at this point, and we may even draft one, right? So that's kind of enticing. If something falls through and he doesn't come here, boy, I think George Pickens being traded right around draft day is probably a real possibility.
There's just one thing that we need to consider if Pickens is going to be traded. It has to be for a good pick. It has to be for a second or first rounder. Mm-hmm. And that's because if he plays the year out, if he stays with the Steelers, plays the year out, and they don't give him a contract, he'll leave in free agency. Mm-hmm. He will be like, he'll get a huge contract somewhere. Oh yeah. And the Steelers will get a third round pick as a compensatory pick, just like they're going to get a third round pick for losing Dan Moore. Thank you, Titans, for being idiots and giving that guy a huge contract,
a massive contract.
But that's the deal. It's like, okay, you want to trade him, it got to be for a second rounder this year, or a first rounder, or whatever, or an equivalent player or something like that. Otherwise, it's like, we'll keep the guy and deal with his crap, and hopefully, Pickens will be highly motivated to have a good year and to behave because, if he does, he'll have a big contract. Now, that's just like Aaron Rodgers. That's assuming Pickens is a normal human being, which he is not. He's an immature baby, but still, in theory, that's what he would think.
What George Pickens has really done to himself, and I kind of hung up the coaching clipboard about a year and a half ago with baseball, but he would be a guy I would point my players to and say, that's what you don't want to do if you ever want to do anything in this business. Because had he been normal, had he acted mature, had he taken a captaincy or a leadership role in this team the last 2 years and had 9 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, whatever, a decent, good, or even above average 2 years, he would be a hot commodity. People would be knocking on our door right now, just like Three's Company, saying, hey, come and knock on our door. What do you want for Pickens? First rounder all the way. Because of the things that he's done. You're spot on. And you said hope, and that's the thing. It's a hope that you get a second or first round pick. That's what you should get. Otherwise, it's third round's going to be compensatory anyway. But I mean, he's endangered himself with his mouth and his antics to the point where a lot of coaches are saying, do I really want to bring that onto my team? And all the stuff we go through, Joe, and how much different it is from the 80s and 90s and NIL and, the transfer portal and all this crap, which I think is really harming sports. He's an epitome of that. He could be different, but no. And so, yeah, I mean, he's costing himself millions of dollars. So you're right. Let's say, okay, stays with the Steelers. He'll walk next year. Say the Browns would give him 4 years, probably $40 million, somewhere in there. If he had a half decent year, if he had 3 great years, and let's say this year he really shows up, 11 touchdowns, 1,200 yards, he could be asking for 60 to 80 mil.
Yeah.
And maybe hey, the Niners, we're going to give you 8 years. You're a Niner for life. But I don't know if he's going to see that this year and will benefit at least from this year from that, or if he's going to be same old George Pickens since he was at Georgia.
Yeah. I mean, it's just unbelievable that he has not grown up yet. And I'm sure in his entire life, it's the same thing. It's you're so amazingly talented that you could just get away with whatever you want without consequences, without accountability. And he's been coddled like crazy. He's been, Tomlin is credited for dealing with crazy people like Antonio Brown and all these, for getting the most out of him. Well, is he getting the most out of Pickens? I mean, in any other era or any other year or any other situation, his ass would be benched.
Mm-hmm.
You do not put up he would just, it's like, you know what? We've told you a million times to not be an idiot, and you're being an idiot. Just go sit down. But because they had no other wide receiver and because he's so talented, they just all have to put up with it.
And that's the other thing with Aaron Rodgers coming in. I don't see Aaron Rodgers as a guy that's going to pull that kid aside and say, hey, look, I know you don't follow auto racing as much as I do. I follow it pretty intently. And there's a young man now, I think it's his rookie year driving in the main Cup Series. His name's Carson Hocevar. Well, in the other minor league series in truck and in Xfinity, he was wrecking everybody to win races. I mean, he didn't care what he did. I mean, he was just pissing off
dangerous.
Everybody. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. pulled him aside and said, look, you have all this talent. He does. Very talented young kid, very good kid. And said, but you're not going to make it far in this. If you listen to what I say and you do this and do that, you can make it. But you need to leave all that stuff at home, or whatever, or grow up. And here he is. He almost won the first race of the year. He's been doing great. He's been finishing well. He's in the top series in NASCAR. And sometimes I know that people say, oh, Darren, Joe, that's wishy-washy, or that's, too much Little House on the Prairie. There's 2 70s TV references in the last 10 minutes. But I'm sorry, but I still think that there's something to that. There's something that could have helped this kid. Someone pulled him aside and said, hey, look, if he's beyond approach, maybe he is. But I don't think Aaron Rodgers bringing him in is going to help that at all.
That's the other thing about this is Aaron Rodgers has his own thing. George Pickens has his own thing. I believe DK Metcalf also has his own thing. Put them all together, and how are they all going to get along? How's Pickens and DK Metcalf going to get along? We don't know.
I don't.
These are some big personalities.
There's some big personalities, and it's just and the other thing I can't imagine, just knowing what we've seen, I can't imagine Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith are hitting it off. Or I mean, during that 6-hour conversation, what came from that? Because if Aaron Rodgers, let's say first 2 games, he does pretty well. Let's say we go 1-1 or we're 2-0, whatever it may be. And Arthur Smith tries to do what he did to Russell Wilson last year. I can tell you that's not going to go well at all. I mean, that's going to be either Aaron Rodgers will just not show up. I put nothing by him.
Just think about it. in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers was doing this of, I want my wide receivers. I want to do it my way. Me. He goes to New York. He gets his own personal offensive coordinator, his own personal wide receivers, and it ends in a disaster. Obviously, he's not going to get his way like that, but still, he's used to doing things his way. You really think you're going to teach an old dog new tricks? You really think you're going to say, okay, Aaron Rodgers, I know you've been doing it the same way for all these years. I want you to do it in our system now. Yeah, how he's going to work with Arthur Smith would be, that's just a huge issue. Who knows? And I'm sure that came up because I'm thinking, what is Aaron Rodgers, what is this discussion like? What is Aaron Rodgers asking them? Like, I'm sure it's like, hey, who the hell is running this thing?
Yeah, because honestly, I do see Mason Rudolph saying, okay, coach, yeah, we can run it that way. I think that will go together great. I don't know how great the end result will be, but I think the relationship will be a hell of a lot better. They'll probably definitely be buddies in the white elephant gift exchange if the Steelers do that. But Aaron Rodgers and Art Smith will not be. We got a comment on there, Joe. David Podnar. Our buddy David. It's funny. I recognize David's. I love David's hat. I was noticing that last week. So maybe Aaron will pull Pickens aside and go on a trip with him. Yeah. That's not to the that you can draw your own conclusions on that. But yeah, and I guess that's the thing. That's why, saga or dilemma. I mean, if he comes here, I guess a lot of people go, great. And if he comes here, a lot of people are like, crap. And if he does come in here, it kind of a back to a NASCAR reference. A lot of people, or the stigma is, oh, you want to watch NASCAR, you want to see the wrecks, it could be an epic train wreck. But the thing is as much as you could laugh about it, we might make fun of it, at the core root of it, you're sitting there as a Steeler fan going, what in the hell are we doing? How did we get to here? And we're here.
I'm just in shock. I'm shocked. Like if you told me 2 years ago when we still had Kenny Pickett, it's like, yeah, we're going to do 1 year of Russell Wilson, and then we're going to beg Aaron Rodgers to please play for us, and we're going to wait for him whenever he feels like it to answer, and then hopefully maybe he'll say something. I'll be like, what the hell happened to us? Like I mean, I get it. If you look at the history of teams losing their franchise quarterback, their Hall of Fame quarterback, it doesn't go well. Look at the Patriots with after Tom Brady. Look at all these teams after they lost, they struggled to get their new quarterback. But wow,
a Dolphins fan reminded me this week, and I usually am pretty good at my NFL history, but I almost had to look it up. But he said since Marino's left, actually, yeah, they haven't been in the AFC Championship game since 1993. And you sit there and you think, that can't be. Yeah, that's probably, and it is. I mean, you think, are we entering that Miami Dolphins stage where, you and I are going to be doing the show. We're going to look like Statler and Waldorf from the Muppets. And we remember Big Ben from 35 years ago and Terry Bradshaw from 70 or 60 years ago. And that's something we've been very privileged. We had some low times in the 80s. 89 was fun. Early 90s and 90, 91, not fun. We lose Chuck, we bring in Bill. And 92 on, some pretty good times, right? A lot of playoff games, some 500 seasons, some that were under 500, but we benefited from that. You sweep in the early 2000s, pick up 2 more Super Bowls. Tomlin gets us to the playoffs. We don't win anything, but he gets us there. We've been pretty damn spoiled. But I think the biggest fear of any Steeler fans, we don't want to be the next Dolphins. We don't want to be the Cardinals. We don't want to be, the Houston Texans or whatever it is. We want to get back up to where it's always us and the Ravens in the AFC North and maybe the Browns every once in a while. That's where we want to be. And right now, man, it's not there.
It's yeah. And then we think that next year we're just going to magically have our knight in shining armor. That's this mythical quarterback that's going to lead us to the promised land. Okay, that's a big if.
Right.
That's relying on a lot of things. And while we're waiting for this mythical thing in 2026, we still have to play a 2025 season. So with a Cam Hayward who's toward the end of his career, with a TJ Watt who is past his prime, with Minka who knows what the hell's happened with him, but he's getting older. Where it's an aging defense. This is our time. Your time is up. Our time is now. You can't see me. This is the time. So, what's going to happen this year is what I want to know.
Well, and I think this might be one of the rare instances going back to that. If we have a losing season under Mason or even Aaron, I think it's the one time the Steelers fans would probably give this organization a pass. Like, you know what? Finally, but then the pressure to pick somebody next year is great. And I think we pulled it up, or you pulled it up a few weeks ago on a list there. There is not one quarterback from Kenny Pickett's draft class. Not one. It's the solidified starter for their team. So you can't, next year we'll just go get our guy. Because going to just get your guy is not as easy as going to Giant Eagle and, getting a loaf of Italian bread on Sunday for sauce. We'll see how Arch Manning does this year. I mean, everyone's already saying now that next year you're playing for the Arch Manning draft pick. Let's see how he does. I mean, if that be it that he has a great year in Texas, he doesn't get hurt, whatever. But it's just it's usually pretty clear, Joe, when you have a great draft class of quarterbacks coming up. It was with Ben's class, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Ben, or a couple other guys in there. Just like the 83 draft class. This year, it's a couple guys in there. Nobody that I think's a surefire. Could there be a Tom Brady in there? Sure, there could. But that's the thing. I mean, yes, it'd be great to get up there, but are we smart enough to pick the right guy and a franchise guy? So I don't know. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think honestly, Steelers fans would give the old, we suck and have fun with it on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook for the next season, but better not last much longer than one.
And if it does happen that we do suck and go like 5-12 or something, I just want all the people that say, "Oh, I'd be okay with that." Are you really going to be okay with that? Are you really? We'll see. Well, I don't think they are. I think it's going to get ugly.
We're talking about a town, an area of the country, folks. If you're not from Pittsburgh, where we look at the Steelers schedule, tell our wives and girlfriends what day we can go to the corn maze, because we can't go to the corn maze here because you got to pick the corn maze day to take the kids. Bye week, if the bye week falls in corn maze time, okay, great. Otherwise,
if you're getting married and you schedule it during a Steeler game, you might as well just sign the divorce papers now. That marriage is not going to last.
Or the reception is like a Steeler game and everybody has terrible towels. We've seen that. I mean,
make it Steeler themed and show the game. Okay, that's fine. But.
Yeah, we could have a show on the 20 greatest Steeler, Yinzer, whatever, the cookie table and everything. But yeah, so that's what I think you're right. I mean, I think they'll put up with it to an extent. But it's getting to the point, Joe, where I'm worried that we could be heading down that road where we're going to be in consistently losing seasons. And that's something we've never done, whether it's you believe in Mike Tomlin or not. And I don't know. It's a little scary to be a Steeler fan right now.
If
you're being honest with yourself.
Years from now, we could be looking forward. It's like, oh man, it was so good when we went 9-8 and barely made the playoffs and got blown out. Oh, those were the good days. Those were the golden age.
Right.
Those were the good times.
Yep.
It could happen. It could happen.
It could.
Another thing that we've learned is the main person that is behind trying to get Aaron Rodgers, that really wants him, is Mike Tomlin. So we joked about this thing with Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers, how they're winking at each other, and they're like,
"Oh yeah, that's right."
They're like across the bar, like, "Hey, girl, how you doing?" But it really seems to be a thing. It's like Tomlin really wants him. So, okay, you get him, you want him, and if he comes, good luck with that, because like we just talked about, it could blow up so many different ways.
Well, and I almost just shudder to see what the price tag is going to be. And that's the other thing too. Do you want to save the money, or you're going to shell out some major coin for a guy that? And look, we could be wrong, folks. Aaron Rodgers is very good. He still probably has 2 years left in him where he could come in and really do well. I guess I'm pessimistic about that chance, considering the recent track history of Aaron Rodgers.
I just think if I'm trying to be hopeful, I would think that he would be very motivated to have a good season just to end his career on a good note and not all that crap that happened in New York. So he would be motivated to get that bad taste out of his mouth and end on a high note. We'll see.
You'd think that would be it, and maybe it is, and maybe to him the shine hasn't worn off of Mike Tomlin, but I think over the last couple of years in particular, for many of us who are in that Tomlin's never had a losing season boat, he's the greatest ever, to I think a lot of people have gone the other way and said, the people that were saying, this guy's as cracked up to be, were probably right.
Yeah.
And, that's the thing. I think people are very tired of Mike Tomlin. If you wanted to see a real renaissance, breath of fresh air here, I think it would be Mike Tomlin leaving and having a new coaching staff. I think that would breathe a lot of new life in the Steeler fan base.
It's not going to happen until his contract runs out, whenever that is. I believe that's in a year or two. We know that because Rooney isn't going to, God forbid, he spends any more money than he has to. So, he's not going to pay for two coaches. So if you are hoping for Tomlin to leave, the best case scenario is waiting for either his contract to run out, or I don't know how that would work, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, could we be coming to the end? I mean, at some point, people can't be there forever. It's not, he's approaching 20 years coaching the Steelers. That's a long time. That's a long time. The only other coach I could think of lasting that long is Popovich with the San Antonio Spurs.
Right.
People just don't last that long, whether they're good or bad. It's one way or the other. If it's not working, it's just time. It might be time to move on.
Right. And I mean, there's always those things, and I don't know why Steeler fans need to be reminded of this, right? Because people were terrified when Chuck Noll was gone. But everyone kind of realized that Chuck Noll would kind of, the shark had been jumped, whatever you want to use.
The game passed him by.
They passed him by. Here comes Bill Cowher, a special teams defensive coordinator we really don't know a lot about, but he's from Crafton, so everybody liked that. But as it turned out, things started changing, and
instantly,
almost
it changed instantly. It was an okay team under Noll those past 2 years. It was 89. They started off bad, and then they barely made the playoffs, and it was awesome. They beat the Oilers. I think 90. They were struggling, and then instantly Bill Cowher comes in, and they automatically make the playoffs, and they get good again.
Well, they brings in Dom Capers, and he brings the blitz back, and everything else, and that's maybe what you do need. I mean, everybody crosses that bridge, folks, and some of my friends are Cowboys fans. They remember when Tom Landry, like, oh my God, what are we going to do without Tom Landry? Because he's been a damn coach for as much as Noll had, and Jimmy Johnson worked out pretty well for Dallas Cowboys.
And what did Jimmy Johnson do? He blew the whole damn thing up.
Yes, he did.
He basically said, "We're just destroying everything." We got Herschel Walker. Let's trade him for some draft picks, which ended up completely changing the franchise.
5 Hall of Famers and 3 Super Bowls,
right?
And I mean, and that's the thing. And now, okay, somebody could say there, well, but after Jimmy Johnson left, they had Barry Switzer, who I can't believe we lost to Barry Switzer. That one hurts, but Barry Switzer only stuck around 2 or 3 years. And since then, it's been not great for Cowboys fans. They also are in that Miami Dolphins echelon of, I don't think they've been in an NFC championship game in, I can't remember when. I remember Tony Romo in that game, but that was like an NFC semi. That was like, second round. But I can't remember the last time the Giants were in an NFC championship game. So, yeah, it can go the other way. We all realize that. But at some point, Joe's right. It's 20 years, guys. It's time. It's time.
Yeah, I mean, when Tomlin came in, and at the end of Cowher's coaching thing, people were calling for him to be fired, and the game passed him by, and all this crap. And and Tomlin came in, and he was a fresh of breath air, and he did things differently. And but that was 20 years ago. He's not the new young guy anymore. He's now the old guy. And I think part of the issue is he's not changing with the times, and we might need somebody that's newer and more innovative.
Well, that's the thing I always kind of throw back at Steeler fans is when they say that, like, we got Mike Tomlin, who's a DB coach at Tampa and Minnesota. I mean, we were all like kind of terrified how this guy's going to do. And let's be honest, a lot of his early success came from Cowher's players and Cowher's draft picks. I don't care what anyone says, and people are going to argue with me on that, but I feel that I'm right on that. And there we go. Because the further Mike Tomlin's got away from Bill Cowher's players, the worse he's gotten, and so, yeah, and I mean, but regardless of whatever you think about that, really the point is 20 years, it's time. And I've said this, if Bill Cowher goes somewhere, let's say he goes to the Colts or he goes to the Saints or something like that, I think they're probably a playoff team too in that first year or two, because that's what happens when you take coaches and do that have some acumen like he does. But I also feel like you bring a new staff here, we also start sniffing the playoffs and maybe get a playoff win and start back in the right trajectory.
We're not saying Tomlin's bad. We're just saying it's not working here.
Right.
And yeah, him on a whole different thing. Yeah, he could get Carolina to 9 wins and get blown out in the first round of the playoffs. He could do that somewhere else.
Yeah. We're in the same boat with Jim Sullivan. It's like I just don't know. He goes out there with that world, and he does great with Team USA, and it seemed like the players are responding to him, and he was making changes. And it's like, why aren't you doing that here? And it's like, it's so stagnant.
It's almost the exact same situation.
Thing.
He's been here forever. And the GM is like, well, if I fire Mike Sullivan, I'm just going to get somebody like Mike Sullivan. Yeah, that's the point. You need someone else, dude. And another thing about Mike Sullivan, he refuses to play young people. Well, you're good. Yeah. You suck, and you're going to need young people. So,
he did it out, dude. The thing that frustrates a lot of Penguins fans is he did in 16 and 17, which is a big reason we won the cup. Yeah, you had a young Brian Rust. You had a young Getzel. You had a young Rust. You had all these kids you're throwing in there, and we were skating the pants off of teams. Which really you could say we should have won more between 09 and 16. You would have thought with our lineup. But even the Penguins, right? Remember Michel Therrien? They soft. and
so soft, so disappointing.
So soft. And he's gone. They bring in Disco Dan, and Dan does well, wins a cup. Then Dan got stagnant, and they bring in Jim Sullivan, and Sullivan and they take off and do great.
And then he's like Pope for life or something. I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait for him to pass away or something. I don't know.
Right. So it is very odd. It's such an odd time to be a Steeler fan because we're in. I don't want to say uncharted territory because you and I are old enough to remember some of the bad years, but we're in a territory that's strange waters right now, my friend.
It is uncharted waters. We'll see what happens. One thing we did not talk about, Najee Harris signed a 1-year contract with the Chargers, and when he talked, people say that he threw Tomlin and the Steelers under the bus. I don't think so, but I mean, he didn't. I think his time here was not. He wasn't exactly happy here, but I don't think it's not like he was trashing the team or something like that. But he did say something about, the facilities are. The facilities are so much better here. Okay, yeah, but there was one thing. I from what I understand, he had to pay for his own equipment. Like there was some machine that he wanted to use, like some resistance machine or something like that, and he had to pay for that. I'm sorry, that's BS. Give the guy his equipment or whatever. How much does this stuff cost? Come on, man. I mean, the
Steelers have it.
That's a bad look.
It's a bad look. Now, I mean, no kidding. You went to SoFi Stadium. I mean, that place is incredible.
State of the art that just got built up.
Yeah, of course it's better facilities. But again, and I know if we had good old Leanne on, she disagreed with me. She really liked him. But, hey, 1,000-yard rusher. hasn't really meant as much since probably they went to 16 games.
It's like 50
Um,
yards a game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that overwhelmed impressed with him. I've always thought he was meh, and now, like I've said this all along, he go to LA and be maybe something comes out that we couldn't get out of him. But he was never great in the red zone. The only thing he was very good at was holding on to the football. And if that's what they get out, that's what they get. I mean, if he goes out there and rushes for 1,700 yards and 14 touchdowns, I'm going to say, yeah, we missed something. I don't think that'll happen, but it could. But then again, just a couple digs there at the Steelers. Not surprised. I'm sure I'm 100% sure if George Pickens went somewhere, he'd be bashing the Steelers left and right. It will not be pretty. No matter whether that's in a couple of weeks or months or that's next year at this time, the gloves are going to be off.
Don't worry, the Steelers already have their nuclear arsenal of what they would retaliate with. The minute George Pickens leaves, Jerry Dulac would be out there with tweets about every nasty dumb thing that George Pickens did. Yeah, that would be mutually assured destruction.
But it's interesting you bring up Najee's comments because there's been other ones out there too. Like Cam Hayward seemed fairly disappointed that we let Justin Fields go. And Cam hasn't been as quiet as he used to be. And he said those things, and I think a lot of Steeler fans were with him on that. Keep Justin Fields, keep the kid, let Russ Wilson walk. So these guys are out there, they're saying their things. Justin Fields, to his credit, didn't say much. I think other than being just disappointed, never got a chance to be the starter, which we've always said he has every right to want to be the starter.
The only thing that Justin Fields said was like, well, why did you come to the Jets? He's like, well, Aaron Glenn's a great coach. I really want to play for Aaron Glenn. It's like, wait a minute. I thought Tomlin was the wonderful players coach that everybody wanted to play for. Tomlin. Oh, Tomlin. He's like the greatest player. Wait a minute. You're going to the Jets because of their coach. I mean, nobody. Let's be real. There's 20 million reasons he went to the Jets. Okay, he's going for the money. And no athlete ever says that. It's like, yeah, everybody has a price for the $1 million man.
Right.
But I mean that was interesting that he. It's just a subtle jab.
Yeah, someone should definitely send Myles Garrett the $1 million belt and have him. But no, and the Steelers are never going to say anything back to Najee, but I wasn't surprised something like a little bit of a side jab wasn't coming from Najee because I do feel like, when we got him, he was pretty highly touted, right? You're talking about, what was he, a 2-time national champion with Alabama, did some pretty good things there, and he looked great under that offense, but here he's just never been what he was at Alabama. And, I think anyone has a little bit of pride in himself would like to do that and to take a shot at, hey, I'm better than what I was in Pittsburgh. You just wait and see. And we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah. He said, we just didn't know anything on offense, really. We didn't have any identity. We had a young guy coming in at quarterback. I really didn't have nobody to almost learn from on the offensive side. But the problem is, Najee, we wanted you to be that guy. I mean, they made him captain. They wanted him to be like the leader. I mean, remember when Ben retired, it was basically a complete overhaul of the offense, almost a complete new offensive line, new wide receivers. This is an extremely young group, and they were looking for Najee to be the leader, to be the next, like Cam Hayward like thing that carry the torch for their organization. So, I mean, not to criticize Najee on this, but it's like, we don't have a leader, bro. It was supposed to be you.
Yeah, it was. I think a lot of people were willing to give him that chance and be an advocate for him and him for an advocate for us. I really do. And it just never materialized. And that's why I've always said he's just been mad. Because I felt like he could have been more, and I think a lot of people wanted to see more out of him too.
Yeah. And I mean, in his defense, he had some horrific offensive lines to deal with, and he had to deal with Matt Canada. Now, that's what Najee, I think, will be remembered for most, is being the person responsible for getting Matt Canada fired. So he has a very important spot in Steelers recent history. So thank you for that, Najee.
Yeah, we're going to turn around and pitch it to you 9 yards back, on a 3rd and 1, or pitch it to you. I mean, how many times did Matt Canada? It's 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, and you have Najee Harris, who's very capable of getting that first down, and you run him out of the shotgun. And you're sitting there like, why in the hell are they pitching to him out of the shotgun?
What are we doing?
I mean, what are we
What
doing?
are we doing, people?
What are we doing? So we had another commenter there, and he's right. I mean, you can make the argument he wasn't utilized correctly here. I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Oh, what happened to my stuff? All my stuff disappeared. Interesting.
Uh-oh.
And the one last thing, the draft. I find it really interesting that they skipped Michigan's pro day, because I've seen so many mock drafts and stuff say this Kenneth Grant, this defensive tackle from Michigan. So I mean, I'm sure they'll bring him in for I'm sure they'll bring him for a visit or whatever, but that was kind of weird that, like, I don't know. It just seems like the perfect marriage of, because they desperately need, I think they're telegraphing, they need a defensive lineman, and they didn't go see the guy. I don't know. That was a little weird.
Yeah. And I don't know if they feel like they got burnt after Roman Wilson last year. Like, hey, we did Roman Wilson last year. That didn't work out too well. So we're just
never another Michigan guy. Forget.
Yeah.
Screw you, Michigan.
Yeah, we're gonna skip out on this one. No, but that's the thing that's interesting. This is a very deep draft for defensive linemen. There's a lot of good ones out there, and we need them. And that's the thing, is it's going to be interesting to see what this draft is going to be. Is it going to be done out of necessity? Is it going to be the smartest pick? Because I'm telling you, if Mick is there from Ohio State, man, that's hard to pass him up. And we need a wide receiver. We really do, because I mean, no matter what, George Pickens is either won't be there by the time we kick off this year, or he will be gone next year. So he looked phenomenal, and I think really it's evident that he really made Ohio State's quarterback look a lot better than he was, because Ohio State's quarterback his draft stock has dropped tremendously, where Jackson Darts has gone up. Even though he has all the tools, he's a big kid, very strong. He's Big Ben-esque in his size. And but when you took away his receivers at pro day, I mean, he couldn't hit the side of a barn with his throws. It was almost comical. You can YouTube it. So yeah, I don't know. You have Jordan Phillips. They like him out of Maryland. They also are everybody knows that they're very high on that. Am I gonna say his name right? Scativo from Arizona State. And that's another thing they got addressed, Joe, is we have 2 backup running backs. And I heard on I think it was the Fan or somebody today this week saying, oh, they're very high on the kid from Philadelphia. How can you be high on Gainwell? I mean, he was okay.
He's a third down back. That's it.
He's a third down back who fumbles the ball a lot. I think he had 6 fumbles in the past 2 years alone, or last year alone. And running back is all of a sudden it's also a glaring need on this team. You're not really addressing it in the offseason, at least they haven't. So, that's a big thing. There's a Marion Hampton, there's some pretty decent running backs. So I don't know. I was thinking up until the last couple of weeks, Joe, it's going to be defensive line, but they may go running back. They have so many needs. That's what I mean about all this. They have so many holes that they need to fill right now. So many.
Yeah. Which makes me wonder, and I don't think they've done this in a long time. Could this be the year they trade back actually and try to get some of these picks? I don't know.
They might. It was the year that Cleveland did that, where they was when they got Manziel, right? I think they picked like 19th and 21st, or 21st and 24th, or something like that.
Right.
And I think that's when they got Chubb, and I'm not sure who else they got, but it could be. It really could be. It's last year, I think you and I, the last couple of years, we were pretty sure what they were going to do. Offensive line, cornerback, something of that nature. There was other needs in Kenny Pickett. That was a waste of time. But they went and got him anyway in the first round. This year, I feel like defensive line's probably it, Joe. But I don't know. When we do the show that night with Allison and Leanne, it could be very, very, very intriguing as to what they're going to do. And these next few weeks are probably going to dictate a lot of that.
If we know who the quarterback is before the draft, I mean, we're basically 30 days from the draft. Hopefully he decides. Hopefully he doesn't. He doesn't wait till Thanksgiving or something.
Right. Yep. And they've had a couple guys. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that if I'm Rodgers, I say, screw this. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm not going to retire. I'm going to go to the beach and I'll just sit here and wait. And then let's say, some big quarterback or something gets hurt, in preseason or the first few weeks of the season. I'm right here, baby. I'm on the beach. I can come off the beach and I'll help you out, and I'll join the Chiefs or the Bills or the Bengals or something like that. So, it's out, and then you don't have to worry about training camp and OTAs and all that gobbledygook.
It's worth noting that in the last couple of weeks, the Steelers have had more running backs visit them than any other position. So they had Gideons from Kansas State, Tootin from Virginia Tech. Can't remember the third one, but I know the kid from Iowa is visiting this week. So it's interesting to me that they had 2 wide receivers, like 1 offensive tackle, and the rest has been all running backs that have been invited and have come and visited the Steelers. So they're obviously in a hunt for a running back in this draft. It's just a matter of when are they going to pick one, because I don't think they have any belief at all that Warren or Gainwell is a starting running back, and I would agree with that. I don't think either. I think they're both glorified third down backs. I don't see Jalen Warren as a starting running back. He also fumbles.
Yeah. This is also a draft that is very strong for running backs. So even if they don't get one, well, I would say round 3 or 4 is the latest that you could expect like a really good starting running back. But I think it's definitely a need. I disagree. I don't. He's saying that not sure if I consider Warren a backup. I don't know. Maybe it is his time. Maybe his time is now. I don't know. Maybe Warren is the John Cena of this team. I don't know.
Yeah, a couple good comments from, and I like the name Moosing Around. You might be right. I mean, maybe they do feel like, hey, we're going to give Jalen Warren a crack at it this year. Like I said, though, the stat that gets me is both Gainwell and Warren had more fumbles combined than last year than Najee did in 4. So that doesn't, and Mike Tomlin, if to his credit, he does not like turnovers, which always baffled me why I brought Justin here, but he doesn't like turnovers. He sure as hell doesn't like turnovers from his running back. And it is, we're sitting here on March 25th, folks, to Joe's point, about a month from the draft. And when you look at the people that have come here, when 4 of them are running backs, the other one's Sampson. That's right, from Tennessee. That's an indication. It's kind of like when you have the little tremors before the big earthquake comes. That's an indication that the Steelers are probably most likely highly invested in getting a running back in one of those first 3 rounds. And to your point, Joe, if they can get a second-round pick for George Pickens, then they're really probably licking their chops at what running back they can pick up.
But then they have to get a wide receiver to make up make up for losing Pickens. So
right.
We've acquired something, but then we have another hole. So we'll see.
Yeah.
It's all up in the air, and we'll all just see how it goes, and we're all just waiting. But we have less than a month until the draft, so it's going to be a very interesting April. That's for darn sure.
Very interesting next couple of weeks. I think the best banner you wrote tonight was the saga, and that's what it is with Aaron Rodgers. And it's how long is that saga gonna go?
Yeah. And if he does come, what's he gonna like? What's he gonna sound like? What's he gonna, is he gonna be a jerk? Is he gonna say? Is he gonna try to, pass off a Yinzer accent? Is he gonna in his in his press conference? Is he gonna eat a salad with fries on top of it or something? I don't know.
It's almost like, and it's not because he looks like him. It's almost like, CM Punk coming back to the Steelers. You have no idea what that guy's gonna do. He may go sit on the Liberty Bridge and try to eat a Permani sandwich, right? And wave at Yinzers and sign their cars. I don't know. At least if Aaron Rodgers does come, it won't be for the faint of heart.
Won't be boring
to talk about if Aaron Rodgers does come. It won't be boring. That's exactly right.
We might have to go to like 2 or 3 times a week or something like that. If he it could be, it will not be boring. So
we might have to hire David there to be your
David Barnard, moosing around. Come on down.
We're gonna have you on the street.
We'll need more help.
Yeah, this is moosing around, coming to you live from the Three Sisters Bridges. Aaron Rodgers has invited them all out on a date tonight, and we'll see which sister goes home with him.
Yeah. Okay. This is how we have to end it. That's a really good one. He's gonna go on a darkness retreat with a saxophone guy on the club.
They'll be riding. Yeah. I love it.
That guy, man. That guy's a legend in good and bad ways. Like, you give him money, he's your friend. You don't give him money, he yells at you. It's fun.
We were at when. I remember our season tickets. We got really good season tickets for all the years we were at Mellon Arena. And so when they beat Detroit in Game 6, 4-2, and I remember going out, leaving the Igloo that night, and that guy's violin case was, there had to have been at least a couple $100, if not close to $1,000 pouring out of that damn thing. He had in his coat. Penguins fans were in good spirits. They were throwing him 20s. In that violin case. He must have made a fortune that night. That was a great, Andy. That was a good one. Messing around.
That guy's been doing that for a long time. I think he's been around since the 90s at least.
He's been around a long time. I can't remember him at Three Rivers, but I sure as hell remember him at Hines and obviously the Igloo and PNC. Yeah,
that's what we need to do, a story with these. Whoever you people in my TV brackets. So somebody, one of you reporters, you do a story on saxophone guy. That's the news we want to hear. I want to know more about this guy.
Yeah. That would be fun to have him on the show.
Oh God, I couldn't handle that. I'll ask Sally Wiggin before I ask saxophone guy. Even if I don't give him money, he'll yell at me.
Yes, for sure.
All right.
Thanks, Darren. Thanks, Dave, and moosing around, and everybody watching. The saga continues, and we'll see how it goes. So we'll see.
Thanks, Joe. As always, good being with you.
All right, we'll see you.
See ya.